Hey friends, in this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet a winter hat. For this particular pattern, you'll need to know how to crochet a chain and the double crochet stitch. If you don't know how to do this, check out my videos on how to create a chain and a double crochet stitch. For this particular hat, I am going to be using Charisma brand yarn by Loops and Threads, I believe. Yes, Charisma tweed. This is cream tweed. I love me some tweed. I have a Pom Pom here. This is a faux raccoon Pom Pom. No animals were harmed in the making of this Pom Pom. And I purchased this on Amazon. I'm using a 9mm hook, which I believe is one size larger than recommended, but I like to have a nice loose sort of stitch so it doesn't feel too compressed on my little head. I will also be using a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. Once you have all your supplies ready, we can get started. Before I start working, I wanted to explain the progression of steps for this particular hat. I like to imitate a faux knit ribbed look when I crochet this particular hat. So I create a chain and then I build up with a variety of rows. Variety meaning if I have a smaller head I'm working with, less rows, bigger head, more rows. Now, once the rectangle is finished, we fold it in half, sew up the back so it's a giant cylinder. Then you just do a whip stitch around the top, cinch it, and add your pom-pom if you like. That's the progression of steps. For now, we're going to get started with a slip knot, and I will talk about sizes in a moment, right now actually. I'm going to make a standard adult hat with some slouch. If you want less slouch, you do less stitches. More slouch, more stitches, or more chains here. So I'm gonna go for 28. If you want your pom-pom to sit closer to the top of the crown of your head, I'd say go for 26. If you want a super slouch where it's really hanging down low, 30 is the way to go. I'm gonna go somewhere right in the middle, which is 28. When I finish my chain, I like to count. It's really important before you get familiar with this to count after each row. It will really save you if you miss or add a stitch, and you don't have to undo the whole thing. So let's just make sure. Great, we are ready to go. So this chain here is number 28. I am going to do two more chains, and this is gonna be my first stitch on the next row. So chain one, chain two, turn your work, and we're gonna do our first double crochet in the fourth chain from the hook. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 is where we're gonna go. And the double crochet, in case you need a refresher, you yarn over, dive through the loop, yarn over again, pull it through, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over again, through the next 2. I have a pretty loose tension with my hand. You don't want to over grip. Your wrist will not thank you in the future like mine has. So go slow and take your time. You're going to double crochet across this entire row. Remember to keep your tension somewhat loose. You don't want it too tight. You don't want it too loose. But, you know, your hand should be relaxed as you do this. You don't want any tension growing in your forearms. That's a sign you're squeezing too hard. Now that we're at the end of this first row, count. Great, 28. So what we're gonna do is turn our work. Well, no, actually, I'm gonna do my chains first. We're gonna go up and back across. So chain 1, chain 2, now turn your work. And I am a big fan of always turning your work from the back way like this. I don't love doing this as though I'm turning the page of a book because it twists me over here. So turn the opposite way. So this is the back of your work, and what's going to give this that faux ribbed knit look is going through the back loop of our chain, which is right on top of here, okay? So you don't want to dive into the first hole you see. It's the second one right here. So if we're looking at our work dead on, this little chain here, this little stitch, that's in the first loop. So we're going into the second one here. It looks like that one's available. It is not. Yarn over, dive through the back loop only. If I was gonna have this be a really tight hat, I would go through both of them. But I don't wanna do that because I want it to look like that knit ribbed, like I said before. So yarn over, dive through the back loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. You head on down to the last row again. As I approach this last row, I wanted to address what I call the sad end loop. Right here, it looks like I'm about done with my row. I am not. There's one final sad loop on the end right there, which is our final loop. So just a reminder, don't forget your sad droopy loop at the end of the line, or your hat will look like a Christmas tree or an evergreen tree. So that's the end of 2 rows. And as you can see, one row looks lifted, the other looks sunken in, and that's gonna give it that different texture as we go through. So this is 2 rows. I'm gonna go ahead and do 16 more to make a total of 18 rows. Remember, this is a standard adult size hat, or if you have a middle schooler or teenager making this, your head will fit this adult size. When you're thinking about someone who's maybe under 8, that's when you'll go down to 16. If you're looking at someone who's 5, maybe 14 to 16, baby sizes range from 12 to 14. It just depends on the head size. This is a very stretchy yarn. That's why I like to go a hook size larger to give it that flexibility. It is very warm and snug, but it is breathable. I'm going to continue making 16 more rows to make a total of 18, and I will see you when I'm finished. Before I finish this last row, I wanted to show you how to connect extra yarn in case you run out. So here I have room for maybe 1 more double crochet. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to complete it all the way. So let me show that again. I'll explain. I yarn over, dive through, yarn over, pull through. I yarn over once, pull through 2, and then I pause. So I'm going to leave this here. So normally I would yarn over and pull through to finish the stitch, but to finish it, I'm going to use, if I can find the end of my tail, there it is. I'm going to pull through with a new loop from a new piece of yarn. So there we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both tails next to each other here, and I'm just going to crochet right over them. So I'm going to yarn over, pull them both here, go through, dive through, yarn over, pull it through that loop. See, I'm kind of going around them, and then continue your double crochet as you will. If this intimidates you, you can feel free to weave in these ends after you finish, just by taking a tapestry needle or a smaller crochet hook and sort of guiding them in and hiding them. They won't show up. And this is the back of the hat, so if they do end up sticking out a bit, you can just give them a little tuck. It's big, chunky yarn, so, or it's at least on the chunkier side, so hiding it isn't going to be perfect, but this is a handmade hat, not a machine. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking to create something magical. And who doesn't love a pom-pom hat? If you don't love pom-poms, that's also fine. Although, I think pom-poms are cooler. So, I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and I will meet back up with you when I'm finished. Alrighty, now that I'm done with all 18 rows. This is what it looks like, okay? And what I'm going to do is first take this long tail. I want to measure 1, 2, 3 lengths of yarn and then snip it. I like to use a little bit more because using less will get me into trouble. So this is going to end up being our tail that we're going to use to close the top of the hat. For now, what we're going to do is you're going to turn it sideways like this. Bring it back around. Okay, I'm just folding this in half. I have it so my tail is on my left hand side and where I began is on the top right hand side. So if this is my top, this is bottom, this is where this is. Got it. Fabulous. I'm actually going to put that tail in the back so my loop looks like this. Okay? And what we're going to do is take crochet hook out, find the last stitch on this side. So here's 1, 2, that's the top of the post. I'm going to put my crochet hook through there. Grab that hook, or grab that loop, excuse me, with my hook. Pull it through. This is the long tail. I'm going to yarn over, pull through the entire thing to close this. Awesome. Now before I do anything here, I do want to address this little tail here. I'm going to use a little, I think this is a whip stitch, or I just weave in and out. I'm not a professional crocheter. I'm sure there are many different ways to do this, but I'm just going to wind this over and around to hide it. See that? Just poking through. I'm sure there are more sophisticated artists out here. This video is meant for my younger friends who may or may not want to learn how to crochet from their silly art teachers. So if you are a crochet connoisseur and are looking for like a real professional, I'm not it. But I do love yarn and fun textured things because who doesn't? All right, what I'm going to do now is kind of flip this. Just grab it through the back because this is my inside, right? So I can just hide it even further by going and that's it. I'm just going to trim that a little bit. Be careful when you're trimming not to trim your stitches. Great, so that's taken care of. It's hidden away. Let's talk about getting rid of this crochet hook and enter your tapestry needle. Now this doesn't need to be this long actually. 1, 2 lengths will be pretty good, plus a little tail. So there's that. And what I'm going to do is thread my tapestry needle. There are several ways to close the back of your hat. The first is to do a little whip stitch where you line up each of these stitches as best you can from one side to the other, and you go around all of it, around and around and around, kind of like a little coil, just going around and around and around all the way up. I like to do something a little bit different. I don't remember where I learned this, but it creates a seamless seam up the back. What the whip stitch does, if you go around and around and around it, what happens is you get, it just kind of poofs out a little bit. So I'm going to show you the more complex way. I know I've learned how to do this. Again, not a professional now. I'm just doing my best here. Sometimes my stitches line up perfectly. Sometimes they don't. Again, this is a handmade item, people. Let's go with grace. Anyways, what you're going to do is guide your tapestry needle through the first stitches like this. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go through this next stitch and under my next one on the opposite side. So usually we dive over. I'm going under like that, okay? And next, I'm going to guide my needle into the second one here and across the way to the next. So it's always through on this side, but I'm going to go under and then dive through and across. So imagine kind of like a little mermaid popping up from the water, diving in again, and going back through. So it looks like that. You can tighten as you go. So as you can see, pretty seamless as you just see it go. So I'll keep doing that all the way up, and I'll do this part a little slow so you can really see. But as I cross, you kind of go under and then you down, down, over, and across again. I wish I had a more formal way to describe this, but I don't. Now that we're at the top, I'm going to go through this little knotty part up here and go across both of the stitches on the opposite side, both the loops. And what I'm going to do is actually come back around through that same spot. And this time, instead of just going across, I'm going to go through this loop to create a little knot. Now here, be careful. First, make sure this is nice and even, and then hold this top part tight and tighten the knot. Awesome. Friends, we are almost done. You officially have a muff. Anywho, let's turn this muff into a hat, this lovely cylinder. You can choose to fold up your hat at this point or wait until the end, but I want you to see what happens. So this is still the back, and if you notice down here at the bottom, it's very slight. There's a little divot right there. That's the back of the hat. That's really the end of that story. Some people can see it, some people can't. I can, so I like to tell people that's the back of the hat. Anyways, what we're going to do is wind this yarn around the top of each post of where we did our double crochet hook. Sometimes it's a little easier to see than not, but basically every time we're here and here, just going across 1, 2, top and bottom of each one. And I'm just going to wrap this around. So in the front, grab the next bigger hole, guide the yarn through. Big one. Not pulling yet. Turn, and we're going to do this the whole way around. Now, if you notice your yarn is getting smaller, you can pull a little bit, but do it gently. Alrighty, we have made it back to the end. I can feel it because there's a little hard knot right here. And you're going to go right through there. I like to go around once more where I started on the opposite side here. And what you're going to do, see how it's already kind of cinching in? Gently pull, pull, pull. Notice how I kept my hand close to where I was pulling. You don't just want to yank the hat like this or you'll really stretch it. So always keep your hand near your point of tension. And just like that, voila, you've got a hat. Now, if you do not want a pom-pom, all you do is guide this needle through the bottom like so. We're going to go through the top inward just to solidify the cinch. Okay. Get that needle in the best way you can. Both hands in. Awesome. I like to turn it inside out and just make a quick knot back here. I don't want this falling out. Now, if you want to make a detachable pom-pom, what you'll do is get a button. Sew that button right here through this. Then all you do is poke this little loop through this side, wrap it around your button, and your pom-pom will come off. I'm going to show you how to keep your pom-pom on permanently, but if you want to wash this hat, you got to do it by hand, and this can't go in the dryer. This can be fluffed with a lovely hair dryer, however. Anyways, I'm going to go back through the top. So I'm on the outside of my hat, and this is where we're going to attach our pom-pom. When these arrive in the mail, they can be very smooshed. So like I said, you'll want to get a hairdryer, put it at the hottest, highest setting, and blast that pom-pom till it's nice and floofy. What you do here, guide your needle through the loop of your pom-pom, get it close-ish to the top of your hat, make sure it's relatively centered. Guide that needle back through. And you've got a pom-pom. Flip it inside out. You want to get a few more of those little knots we discussed, just by poking through the top cinched areas and pulling tight. So I'll show you that slowly. I'm just going through a few pieces of thread or yarn and then going back through the loop and tightening it up. Now what you can do to really secure it is just weave in this piece. Just in case you want to ever try to undo this, you'll have the possibility. So just going back through. It's good to hide your work. Great, I'm going to take my tapestry needle off. Tuck the yarn, or cut the yarn, just tuck it. Flip it in, out, inside in. That's the right word, right? And voila, you have a magical pom-pom hat. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can always email me at artwithcoacht@gmail.com. Happy creating!